I could feel his arm moving, and it looked like he was punching me.
Did you notice any marks on her face when you were speaking with her?
No.
She screamed at me once in person, multiple times screaming at me over the phone.
I did not deck you. I was hitting you.
I said, you think it's so funny? You think it's funny, bitch?
You said, I will her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she is dead. Did I read that right?
You certainly did.
The Depp defamation trial has already given us so many unforgettable moments, and we are just halfway through the case. We're also halfway through Court TV's list of the 20 top moments in this trial so far. Over the next 2 hours, we will be looking back at the top 10 moments, counting down to that number one. So which one made the cut? Secretly recorded audio, a social media gotcha, and a bedroom surprise possibly made that cut. But as we go through these moments, let's remember this. Horrible allegations of domestic violence are at the center of this case. But will this jury believe any of those claims? That's coming up next. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. My honor to be with you this Friday afternoon. Today, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp are preparing to head back to court after a week-long break in their blockbuster defamation trial. Testimony resumes Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, and the judge decided to start an hour earlier for the remainder of the trial. That means our coverage will begin here at 8 a.m. Eastern. Now, when court resumes, Amber Heard will be back on the stand to finish her direct examination before that highly anticipated cross-examination. Now, let's resume our top 20 countdown. Before we get into the top 10, let's take a look back at moments 20 through 11.
She yelled, she hit, she threw things, she called us names.
I definitely support Johnny, 110%. There's not a doubt in my mind.
I don't hesitate, I don't wait, I just in my head instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs, and I swung at him.
That was a first, I'm sorry.
I will say, Your Honor, that is the most bizarre deposition.
Okay, all right, I was just gonna say, I've just never seen that before.
You never believed Miss Heard that Mr. Depp had mistreated her.
No, never.
So we'll come back at 4:02, okay? It doesn't matter, she's been watching clips of witness testimony. All right, you're excused, ma'am, you can have, you're excused.
What do you recall about the photos?
Her face was bruised.
Did something happen to you? I don't think so.
So it's fair to say that she has not donated $3.5 million as of today to the ACLU, true?
True.
Here we go, number 10, the wild audio recordings of fights between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. The jurors are listening, and so are we. Let's listen to a few played during Depp's testimony. First up, an audio of Amber saying she hit Johnny, but she didn't punch him.
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights. You've been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you have a close
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not deck you. I was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are you?
What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a baby.
Because you started.
You are such a baby. Grow up, Johnny.
And the audio just kept coming. Here is Depp warning Heard to leave him alone, or there would be a bloodbath.
I'm recording, but at least I'm telling you.
Okay.
And if you had asked me not to, I wouldn't.
Well, record. But die. Walking away is necessary. Is necessary, especially between you and I. It is of utmost importance, because the next move, if
if I don't walk away or just go out for a little while, it's just gonna be a bloodbath, and like it, you know, like it was on the island, of course, like it was, you know. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it.
Yeah,
Why be miserable? Can we just
the options are there.
Have some semblance of understanding for each other?
Please, can we? Because I'm not trying to say, hey, by the way, no one in their right mind is going to choose bloodbath over walking away. Obviously, if you're given the option between the two.
Then why has it been chosen so many times?
And finally, the audio recording where Depp urged her repeatedly to cut him. Now, let's give you some context. It was recorded during Heard's requested meetup after she filed for divorce and after she obtained a temporary restraining order.
Come here. If you know I will. Come here. Well, he spits won't answer this because he's a prick.
Don't. Please don't. Don't cut yourself. Please don't cut yourself. Please don't cut yourself. Please, I know it hurts.
You do it.
I would never cut you.
Come here.
I would never do that to you. Please don't.
Come on. Yeah, you hate me. Come on. Come here.
Tell me first.
Not a problem. How you want?
Not on my arms.
Not on your arms. Not on your arms. Want to be cut? Do you? Just gonna go to court. Didn't cut.
The knife is really dull.
I have to use the sharp part.
Don't do that.
Okay. Don't you tell me.
Please don't do that. Put the knife down. Just put the knife down. Don't do that. Do not do that, Johnny. Please, you're gonna
look at you.
You're gonna hurt yourself. Please.
I want to look at you.
I know you're in pain. Wait. Stop. Please
There's
don't.
a way for the pain to go away.
No, it's not. It's not that. It doesn't make you go away. Trust me.
You don't know.
I do know. It doesn't make you go away.
Really?
Did it make you go away?
Yeah.
It did? Please don't do that, okay?
And now joining us in Austin, Texas, entertainment attorney Ari Rastegar. Thank you so much, Ari, for joining us today. Excuse me, listening to these audios, it really kind of breaks your heart because clearly it's a tumultuous relationship, drug abuse and use and arguing. But do you think that it provides enough evidence of domestic violence in the home?
I think that's the big problem. You know, most everything that we've heard from both sides, from Ms. Heard, from Mr. Depp, has been circumstantial. You know, the biggest problem that I see here, and why, you know, I said the other day when we were on here that I'm glad I'm not a juror in this case, because the salacious allegations are just piling up one by one on one another. But the more that they pile up, that can never pile into something that's based in, you know, evidentiary reasoning. That's the point. So I'm still waiting. I've heard all these things. We've heard these recordings, but where is the actual proof? Like, where is the proof on either side that, you know, these actual allegations did occur? I hear a lot of words. Clearly, both of them are very dramatic, to say the least. You know, both professional actors. It's tough. It's tough because, you know, we haven't seen the proverbial smoking gun.
And that goes directly to a point that is all over social media, and that is you have these certain audios. Where are the audios of the actual incidents or videos of bruises and marks and what's happening? Why are they seemingly selective? Do you think that the jury's going to pay attention to what's missing as well as what they get to hear and see?
Again, that's the real risk, because whatever, you know, jurors are regular people like you and I. You know, they're listening to these things, hearing them, and if you let a group of, you know, normal people like us listen to cases like this, and they pile up, and these salacious allegations continue to snowball without true evidence, they're going to be left to their whims and their opinions to make the cases. And, you know, I heard somebody else on the show the other day say, and I agree, you know, that we're moving closer and closer to what appears to be a deadlock. You know, I think the probability of that, it becomes higher and higher with, you know, with each day of testimony, because, you know, it becomes even more salacious, even more circumstantial, with less and less evidence. So it's to say that this is a unique case is would be a extreme understatement.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. All right, Ari, you're going to stay with us. That was moment number 10. Let's move now to moment number 9 on our list. The makeup kit that Amber claims she used to cover up the bruises. The makeup kit that did not exist yet. During the opening statement, Amber's attorney even presented an actual makeup kit, the same one that she claims Amber carried with her at all times to cover her bruises.
This is what Amber carried in her purse for the entire relationship with Johnny Depp. She's an actor. Do you honestly think she would have left her apartment ever without makeup? Do you think that she ever would have wanted other people to see her bruises and her cuts? This was what she used. She became very adept at it. And you're going to hear the testimony from Amber about how she had to mix the different colors for the different days of the bruises as they developed in the different coloring, and how she would use these to touch those up to be able to cover those. She also used concealer, foundation. You'll hear from her makeup person that Amber didn't even leave her bedroom without having foundation on. And one of the people that was at the building testified. He said she had makeup on and it would have covered that bruise.
Recently, the company that manufactures the makeup kit posted a video on its official TikTok account contradicting the claim. Milani Cosmetics revealed that the makeup kit in question did not even come out until 2017, a whole year after the couple's divorce. The TikTok video specifically highlighted these 3 points. First, alleged abuse was around 2014 to 2016. Next, that Depp and Heard got divorced in 2016. And the third point, that the makeup palette was released after that in December of 2017. Still with me, Ari, let's talk about this, because another piece of this that I want to talk about is when you have a client, and especially you're an entertainment lawyer, really a star, right? Or an A-lister, and they give you information as the attorney. How much of an obligation do you have to investigate it yourself, to look into it yourself, to look and say, hey, was that makeup something she could have had at that time?
Look, you always have a duty and obligation to make sure that any evidence that that you're presenting is in fact true. And clearly you're always working in the best interest of your client, shedding them in the best light, but that doesn't entitle you to your own facts, so to speak. And this is actually, to me, one of the most discerning pieces of this case, because for her to say that she was covering up domestic abuse, and again, this is such a delicate topic for all the people that are suffering from domestic abuse, both male and female, in this country, that is so distressing to me that this is being thrown around like this. But for her to say that she's using the makeup to cover up bruises, and the makeup company recently came out and said that particular makeup line didn't come out till 2 years after the alleged abuse, that is called evidence. And in this particular instance, that is evidence of perjury. So I think we're starting to see, strictly from an evidence standpoint, that Ms. Heard's case is not nearly as strong as once purported to be.
And I think it does highlight, to your point, that as an attorney, when you're trying a case, of course you have what your client has told you, but you also have an obligation, a duty, so that you can present evidence that you believe to be truthful. I'm sure the attorney did believe it to be truthful, but you're right, it may be a crack in the armor now of the case. Let's look at one of the social media posts about this. Bernadetta said, yeah, the lawyer should have done something. Research on that makeup, and didn't she just believed her line client. So the same point, right? That do some research. Don't just believe your client, because no offense to any of my amazing clients in my past career, you never can just believe your client. You have to do a little bit of due diligence to find out before you present. Last thoughts.
You said it right. You said it right. Due diligence, is the word. And as we were mentioning before, these circumstantial allegations have just piled up. But as we said, now we're getting to something that's much more illuminating, and clearly that's not part of this case. And but Miss Heard is also has a perjury allegation going on right now in Australia, and now there's this clear evidence directing her to another case of perjury. This is starting to look like predicate behavior.
Right, and what is this jury going to do? Of course, we're all going to be watching anxiously to see the rest of the evidence.
This is a big one, Judge.
And
this is a big one.
Is it right? What they decide. All right, coming up, you're going to stay with us. Fingertip psychologist and a grumpy surprise. We continue through the top 10 moments in the Depp defamation trial. Did testimony about Johnny Depp's severed fingertip make the list? And people have been taking sides in the battle of the psychologists. Where do they rank in our Depp trial moments?
Now.
Back to our top 20 list of courtroom moments in the Depp defamation trial. Now, we're at number 8. One of the altercations that has been front and center in this trial is the fight that led to Depp's fingertip being severed. It allegedly happened during one of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's alcohol-fueled arguments. House manager Ben King was the man who located that severed finger. Let's take a listen to a portion of his testimony as he describes the day of the incident.
Walking down into the bar, I could see the damage that Dr. Kipper had told me about. A broken ping pong table sort of collapsed onto the floor, and lots of glass and broken glass and cans strewn around the bar area.
And where exactly was the finger in the bar area?
Directly below the bar. I mean, the bar was set up like a conventional bar that stuck out from a wall, and with a marble top. There's a big chunk out of that as well, like on the staircase. Directly at the end of the bar, there was a scrunched up piece of kitchen paper, if you like, tissue, with lots of blood around it, on it. So I thought that's probably a pretty good place to look. And it was within that scrunched up piece of paper on the tiled floor at the end of the bar, the base of the bar by one of the bar stools.
Was there any property damage around the finger?
Yes, a fair bit. On the floor around that area, there were puddles of what smelled like alcohol to me. Seemed like several drinking glasses, a couple of bottles. One was a Stolichnaya vodka bottle. And at the end of the bar, as I said, there was a big chunk out of the bar itself, the bar marble top. At the end of the bar, there was plaster damage right at the end of the bar on the wall. Behind the bar, a smashed and cracked mirror. There's a blue mirror that stretched that whole span of behind the bar. Lots of cans again behind the bar on the floor. Broken window at the end of the bar, and more plastered work damage on the wall above the sink. It was sort of a kitchenette bar, if you like, as well.
Now, you've told us a little bit about the state the house was in when you arrived.
Yes.
Can you generally describe for us, and maybe go level by level through the house, what damage you observed?
Sure. Do you want me to start at the lower ground floor in that bar area? I mean, I've described a lot of that.
Sure, that's fine.
It was pretty extensive down there, all that broken glass, the blood. There were a lot of blood drips across that floor. It was a kind of cream-coloured tiled floor in that whole games area. As I said, the ping pong table was collapsed. Blood drips across the floor and around the bar. And the damage on the walls, as I said, the plaster work at the end of the bar, behind the bar, and the chunk out of the marble top. So on the ground, that was the predominant damage in that area, on that level. On the next floor, on the main floor where David Kipper was, in the kitchen itself, again, there were a few broken glasses and cans on the floor, soda cans behind the kitchen island, the chef's kitchen island, liquid sort of puddles. There was a sitting room with a couch on a cream-coloured couch, which had a fair amount of blood drips on the cushions, and that was obvious. The TV, which was directly in front of that wall-mounted TV, was cracked with, it seemed like remnants of a coffee cup embedded in some of it, and the rest was below, looked like coffee splattered behind and underneath the TV, and on the floor as well. Through there, we'd set up an art studio. So a lot of the art materials from that, paintbrushes, paint, various art materials were on the floor. A lot of paint on the floor. Blood drips throughout that area as well, especially over it was a vast sort of wooden parquet floor. There was a lot of oil paint and blood drips up to the staircase. In one of the bedrooms, there were two bedrooms off of the main kitchen area. One of those bedrooms had blood drips on the duvet, and a lamp had seemingly been broken. The shade was removed. There were a couple of lampshades in the art studio area on the floor. That was about the extent of the damage. Going upstairs to the next level, there was a few blood smears on the wall and on the drips of the stairs going up. Again, a cream-colored carpet, which is not ideal. And so that's the top floor was the master bedroom, master suite floor, and two bedrooms also up there. Outside the master bedroom, there was damage to the plaster work on a pillar outside on the wall. Blood drips into the master bedroom, across the master bedroom floor. Going into the master bathroom, there was a his and hers sink and a mirror, a large mirror above each of the sinks that had writing on each of them. Again, that one of the bedrooms, or both of the bedrooms, I think, had blood on the duvet covers, and another lamp was broken. And Mr. Depp's guitar was in one of those bedrooms, a blood-stained guitar. His iPad was standing up on one of the beds in one of those bedrooms. That's about the extent of it.
That's the damage
on each level, yeah.
Still with us, entertainment attorney Ari Rostiger. All right, Ari, how important or not is that testimony, given this house manager, Ben King, really couldn't say he saw what happened? He came in after the fact.
It's completely inconsequential. I mean, so basically he's, dictating him picking up something that was not in live action. He wasn't a direct witness. Anything could have happened. Mr. Depp could have cut his own finger off. Ms. Heard could have done it, or UFOs could have come down and done it. It wouldn't have made any difference. So hearing that narrative, I'm not entirely sure why they're wasting the court's time.
Do you think it was strategic to add to the drama, really, and the description and the fact, he got his finger cut off? Was that a strategy decision?
I mean, if it was, it doesn't seem like a very good one, quite frankly. I think this case, as we've said, ad nauseum is, salacious and dramatic enough. And, I think sometimes some of the testimony on both sides is really just is abusing the time, not only of the jurors, abusing the time of the court, and abusing the times of the viewers watching from home. The point of testimony is to bring direct evidence to further along the case in one way or another. And I listened to that whole thing, even waiting to come back on the segment, for the second time, thinking, why was he on the stand?
Yeah, and I think too, the other part of that, Ari, for me is that we both know, if you're an attorney in opposing counsel and you don't file any motions to let certain things out or object to it and say we object because it's not relevant, and they didn't.
That should have been objected. No, they should have been objecting. I don't know what you would have done, Judge, but if I was sitting on the other side, there's like objection relevance all day long. Like, this is like... What was that?
And I think that's just to my point that if they don't object as a judge, then you don't have a lot of grounds to step in often. So it's the job of the attorney. Stay with us, because coming up next, number 7 in the top 20 moments from the Depp defamation trial, a crucial moment from Johnny Depp's time on the stand.
JoinCalibrate.com.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. So glad that you're joining us this Friday afternoon. Now, before the break, we listened to Johnny Depp's house manager testify about finding Depp's bloody fingertip in a scrunched up paper towel. That brings us now to moment number 7 in our countdown. Johnny Depp himself testifying about Amber Heard slicing off his fingertip with a liquor bottle. Pay attention to how he recreates that moment.
I went behind the bar. I grabbed a bottle of vodka that was there and a shot glass and sat at the bar. She was nowhere around. And I poured myself 2 or 3 stiff shots of the vodka. First taste of alcohol I'd had in a long time. And then she came down to the bar and found me there, and of course started screaming, "Oh, you're drinking again, yeah, the monster," and all that. So she walked up to me and reached and grabbed the bottle of vodka, and then just kind of stood back and then hurled it at me, and it just went right past my head and smashed behind me. So I stood up and I walked behind the bar, and there was a larger bottle of vodka, the kind with the handle, on it. I grabbed that and I went and I sat in my seat again. I opened the bottle and I poured myself a shot and drank it. Ms. Heard was flinging insults left, right, and center, and she then grabbed that bottle and threw that at me. And the way that the bar was situated and where Miss Heard was. So if I could show you, so if this is the bar where the glass was and the bottles, if this was the bar and I'm sitting here like this, she would grab the bottle and she would go there. She went there. And so I was leaning like this in the chair, looking at her. First bottle went, then I got the other bottle, shot. Takes the second bottle, which was the larger one. I'm in this position again, and my hand is on the edge of the bar, like that, and leaning over, the fingers like that, and she threw the large bottle, and it made contact and shattered everywhere. And I honestly didn't feel the pain at first at all. I felt no pain whatsoever. What I felt was, I felt heat. I felt heat, and I felt as if something were dripping down my hand, you know. And then I looked down and realized that the tip of my finger had been severed, and I was looking directly at my bones sticking out, and the meaty portion of the inside of your finger, and blood was just pouring out. And at that point, I think that I went into some sort of, I don't know what a nervous breakdown feels like, but that's probably the closest that I've ever been. Nothing made sense. And I knew in my mind and in my heart, this is not life.
Ari, I think you and I would both agree that that's relevant testimony, but was it compelling in your mind?
Look, as a viewer sitting here, that felt really believable to me. I mean, the way that he went through the narrative, you know, step by step, it doesn't have, you know, that excruciating, you know, thought out detail that sometimes you see when, you know, people are lying. I felt a tremendous amount of authenticity, you know, watching that. And even the scenario, you know, some of these things that we heard are, you know, quite frankly, stranger than fiction, you know, as sometimes life is. But that particular segment felt quite authentic to me.
And what about Amber Heard during that testimony? She was so stoic. And did you have any takeaways as you were watching her behavior?
I did. Honestly, you know, look, credibility is a very fickle, you know, or fragile thing. You know, when you lose it, it's very hard to regain. So, you know, as we've previously discussed, you're starting to see her credibility wane at the very least, if not be completely deteriorated. So what I saw is what appeared to be false stoicism. You know, it's almost like she was standing there to be, you know, purporting to be, you know, traumatized. And again, I almost hate saying, you know, talking about this because, again, I've mentioned this a lot, that the people that are victims of this type of domestic violence and things, it's just horrific for if any type of lying is occurring in this case. But from my point of view, that seemed a little bit fraudulent to me, and I think he was being very direct and very candid.
And I have to tell you, certainly social media agrees with you. All over the world, people are coming away with that, exactly what you described, and you have experience in the courtroom and knowing what it's like to try a case, and the jury, I think, sees through things. If that's the case, I think they're going to see through it. Coming up next, the moment that had everyone talking about Amber's personality. Number 7 on our top 10 list. Don't go anywhere. That's after the break here on Court TV Live.
Jewelry with Worthy.com.
We continue now with our top 20 courtroom moments. Number 6, a lot of you have been talking about this, the dueling psychologists. One of the standout witnesses for Depp's team was the psychologist Dr. Curry. Curry examined the defendant Amber Heard and diagnosed her with 2 personality disorders.
Did there come a time when you met directly with Ms. Heard?
Yes, I did. So in conducting my evaluation, I met with Ms. Heard on 2 separate dates, December 10th and December 17th, 2021.
Approximately how much time have you spent with Ms. Heard?
So the evaluation, we spent 12 hours directly with one another. However, there were more hours involved in the evaluation with some breaks. So we spent 7 hours together on the first day, December 10th. Not necessarily together because there was a 1-hour lunch break and about a half hour with breaks split up through the day. And then on the 17th, we spent a little more than 8 hours in the evaluation from start to finish with a 1-hour break and another half hour of breaks distributed throughout the day.
as a result of the work that you performed, did you form any opinions with respect to Ms. Heard?
I did.
What were those opinions?
The results of Ms. Heard's evaluation supported 2 diagnoses: borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. So I think it probably presents mostly, or you'd see the bulk of it in intimate relationships because of that regular interaction and the desire for your partner to meet all of your needs, to be the perfect caretaker. Also that the hallmark of the disorder with the splitting, so idealizing, devaluing, and the perceiving of all sorts of neutral events as somehow demeaning or disrespectful. It's regular escalations of anger, frustrated complaints, criticisms of your partner. But because the person with borderline personality disorder, first of all, they're more sensitive to things. They feel distress more strongly, and then that distress lasts longer. So these types of blow-ups go on forever, and they're very cyclic. It feels like you just can't get a resolution, and eventually the partner will try to leave, will want to leave to take a break. It wears them down, and that's when the borderline might explode and act very aggressively or violently to try to prevent them from leaving.
Okay. In addition to diagnosing Ms. Heard with these 2 personality disorders, did you form another opinion about Ms. Heard's mental status?
Yes, so go ahead.
If the answer to that is yes, I'm going to now ask you,
Okay,
what was
yes,
that?
I did.
Okay, what is it?
So in addition to looking for Ms. Heard's general mental status, any psychological issues that were present, I very specifically was assessing to determine whether post-traumatic stress disorder was present, and it was not.
How do you know that?
So first of all, from multiple information sources, right? So I was integrating the interview, my review of the data, the case records, other people's testimony, her treatment records. And then I also conducted, in addition to the MMPI-2 and looking at that data, I also conducted the clinician-administered PTSD scale, the CAPS-5, which is the gold standard PTSD assessment.
Heard's team called their own psychologist to try to debunk Dr. Curry's testimony. Their first witness to take the stand, Dr. Dawn Hughes. Dr. Hughes also examined Ms. Heard, but came away with a very different diagnosis.
The main opinion is that Ms. Heard's report of intimate partner violence and the records that I reviewed is consistent with what we know in the field about intimate partner violence, characterized by physical violence, psychological aggression, sexual violence, coercive control, and surveillance behaviors.
And what was the other main opinion that you had?
The second main opinion was that Ms. Heard demonstrated very clear psychological and traumatic effects, or the exacerbation of trauma, from those statements that Mr. Depp made through his attorney. There were 3 statements that we evaluated to see how they affected her emotionally and psychologically, and it was my determination that they did.
And did you arrive at any diagnostic conclusions?
Yes, I did.
And what were those?
I diagnosed Ms. Heard with post-traumatic stress disorder.
What, if any, consideration did you give to Amber Heard's history of childhood abuse in making your diagnosis?
I mean, that was a significant consideration, given that we know that childhood, well, first of all, we know that people can experience multiple traumas across the lifespan. And we wanted to make sure that the symptoms that she was experiencing were related to what she experienced with Mr. Depp and not her childhood. And certainly, you know, earlier on in the evaluation and when I evaluated and spoke with her, that was true. And that was also true on the latest measure, the clinician-administered PTSD scale for DSM-5, the CAPS-5. And that's because the content, you have to look at what is the content of the symptom. So it's not that someone says, oh yeah, something traumatic comes into my mind. No, what is it? What comes into your mind? What bothers you? What are the triggers? And those were all specific to Ms. Heard's relationship with Mr. Depp. The reason the childhood is also significant is that we know that if somebody suffers childhood abuse as a child, they are much more likely to have an adult re-victimization. And they're much more likely then to be more vulnerable to obtaining a PTSD, to getting PTSD, if they've had that prior vulnerability. So it's a very strong vulnerability characteristic to obtaining PTSD when you have a subsequent trauma.
Ari, if you were to look at these two experts just in and of themselves as evidence in this case, which one would you go with?
I mean, clearly the second one had so much more substance. And I think, again, back to this believability that the case is starting to turn on. Look, early in this case, as we discussed, there was so much circumstantial evidence going back and forth. But as Ms. Heard's credibility has begun to erode for meaningful, factual reasons, and, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm trying to, completely call it straight on what we're seeing. You're starting to see more and more evidence coming from the third parties that are building up more to, if not necessarily show that, Ms. Heard is lying per se, they're starting to show that she just doesn't have credibility. And if she doesn't have credibility, I think it's a logical conclusion that a juror could make to say that the rest of her testimony and the rest of her allegations, at the very least, aren't completely based in fact.
Well, and it's interesting, Ari, that you said the second one, because one of the things I think is, well, it is possible that she can have both two personality disorders as well as PTSD, right? Those can all exist in one person. But I want to push back a little bit on you and look at one of the Facebook posts, because our viewers have had pretty strong opinions both ways. But this one says, the difference between the two is that Dr. Curry was their counselor and was with them way more than 20 hours. Dr. Hughes is just a paid professional by Amber's team of lawyers to give an opposing view. How would you react to that in terms of trial strategy and what it means to use an expert?
Look, anytime you have expert testimony, they're being paid. So that's just the nature of using expert testimony. So saying that somebody is paid to be an expert just on the merit by itself is not enough to say that they were coerced in any manner to give a testimony that, these are, both, professionals, PhDs, doctors that are both highly seasoned. And quite frankly, either way that you look at it, whether you spend 20 hours with somebody or you spend 20 minutes with somebody, that's not necessarily indicative of their credibility per se. And so when you watch the way that they come off, again, you're looking at body language, you're looking at just other intangibles, that speak to the characteristics. And I think you nailed it. You can have both of those. It's not just one or the other, but when you're just simply listening to the experts on their own merit, I think you start to see one of them speak with a little bit more conviction and a little bit more believability.
Right, and which one is that jury going to believe? That's up to them. I always, Ari Rastegar, appreciate all your expert analysis. Thanks so much for joining us today on our Top 20 Countdown. Stick with us after the break. We're going to break down the top 5 moments in the Depp defamation trial. Will Depp's friend Isaac Baruch make an appearance on the list?
Pretty angry with Ms. Heard, right?
About the phony pictures that were taken and put in tabloids, a fraudulent DV claim to extort and blackmail a man. Yeah, that kind of got me
pretty angry.
And did you have any discussions with Ms. Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving the apartment.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
The defecation.
This hour, we continue counting down the top 20 moments of the Depp defamation trial so far. We are down to the top 5. Do you know what the #1 moment in this trial is? But as we go through this testimony, please remember this. Horrible allegations of domestic violence and sexual abuse are at the center of this case. And later in the show, we will speak to an expert on sexual abuse, an attorney who was the survivor of U.S. gymnastics predator Larry Nassar. If Amber Heard was assaulted, could it affect the way she talks about it on the stand? And will the jury believe any of these claims? That's coming up next. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Happy to be with you this afternoon. Today, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp are preparing to head back to court after a week-long break in their blockbuster defamation trial. Testimony resumes Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. The judge has decided to start an hour early for the remainder of the trial. Our coverage begins at 8 a.m. Eastern. When court does resume, Amber Heard will be back on the stand finishing her direct examination before that highly anticipated cross-examination. Now, let's go back to our top 20 countdown. Number 5, the graphic text message exchange between Johnny Depp and fellow actor Paul Bettany. Was it just a dark inside joke, or was this an indication of a sadistic side of Depp? Take a listen.
In this text, Mr. Depp, you text Mr. Bettany, "Let's burn Amber," 3 exclamation points, right? You see that?
I do see that.
And at this time, June 11, 2013, Amber is your girlfriend or perhaps even your fiance at this point, correct?
Girlfriend, yeah, for sure.
And you didn't stop when you said, "Let's burn Amber." Because the next text down, you can move down and blow up the next text, please, Michelle. You say, "Let's drown her before we burn her," 3 exclamation points. Did I read that right?
Yes, it's referring to the text prior to.
You didn't stop when you said, "Let's drown her before we burn her." After that, you made another comment, and I'd like to apologize to the court and to the jury for some of the language that I'm going to have to use today, but unfortunately, you're going to see a lot of documents with language like this. After you said, "Let's drown her before we burn her," Mr. Depp, you said, "I will her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she is dead." That's what you said that you would do after you burned her and after you drowned her. Did I read that right?
You certainly did, yes.
And you wrote that about the woman who would later become your wife.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Mr. Depp, the top text message, we're going to focus on a couple of these, but the top text message is a text from you to Paul Bettany on May 30th, 2014, correct? Might need to scroll over, Michelle.
May 30th, 2014, yes.
And you recall that you testified yesterday about the flight that you took from Boston to Los Angeles on May 24th, 2014, right?
Yes.
You remember that? Okay.
Yes, I did.
And you testified yesterday that you didn't have any drinks before that flight, or maybe you had a glass of champagne or something. Remember giving that testimony?
Yes, I believe I said I had a glass of champagne on the plane.
Right. So in this text, if you could blow up, Michelle, please, that top text. On May 30th, 2014, you texted Mr. Bettany, just a little bit smaller. You texted Mr. Bettany, "I'm going to properly stop the booze thing, darling. Drank all night before I picked Amber up to fly to LA this past Sunday. Ugly, mate. No food for days. Powders. Half a bottle of whiskey. 1,000 Red Bull and vodkas. Pills. 2 bottles of champers on plane. And what do you get? An angry aggro engine in a blackout, screaming obscenities and insulting any who got near. I'm done. I'm admittedly too in the head to spray my rage at the one I love." Read that again. "I'm admittedly too in the head to spray my rage at the one I love, for little reason as well. I'm too old to be that guy, but pills are fine. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
I'd like to welcome now live in studio attorney trial consultant Dina Sayegdal. Dina, great to have you back with us again in studio today. Listen, at a minimum, those text messages are really mean and disturbing, even if Johnny Depp was just confiding in a friend.
It definitely doesn't make him look good. I mean, there's this idea, you know, sometimes in criminal of whether or not to introduce evidence if there's a propensity to do something. I mean, obviously that doesn't apply here, but kind of. That's what they're trying to show. He's talking about doing something, you know, violent, burning her, you know, what he's going to do about it. That's not how Johnny Depp's team wants him to be portrayed. So that hurt him.
And how do you think he was responding to a cross-examination and the attorney that was questioning him? Do you think he was doing it in a good way, or do you think it came off in a way that the jury may not appreciate?
You know, I think in that line, he seemed okay. I mean, it is a very bad statement. What can you really, you know, say about that is helpful? And we see a lot of that in this trial. We see a lot of his language coming back to him, his apologizing for, you know, he calls himself a monster, things like that, which is interesting because none of it really goes enough. He never, ever says that he hit her and he feels bad about it. But in some sense, definitely his own words are being used against him.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the things that really bothered me, though, Dina, trial skills, is you don't read the statements. You make the witness read the statement so the jury hears it in their own voice, and that just didn't happen during that excerpt, and it was driving me crazy as I was watching. All right, you're right here with us because we want to turn to number 4. Amber Heard testifies that Johnny Depp sexually assaulted her with a bottle. At this point in the trial, Heard has been on the stand for 2 days. Heard's testimony was a roller coaster of emotions, and she detailed the tumultuous relationship with Depp. One of the most emotional moments was when Heard describes an event in Australia where she alleges that Depp sexually assaulted her with a bottle just weeks after their wedding.
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get through to him. I couldn't get up. I couldn't get up. And I don't know how that ended. I don't know how. I don't know what happened next. I don't understand this. The next thing I remember, I always been over backwards on the bar, meaning my chest was up. I was staring at the blue lights and my chest was on this, my back was on the countertops. And I thought he was punching me. I thought he was I'm sorry. I felt this pressure. On my pubic bone. I thought he was punching me. I just saw his arm. I could feel his arm moving, and it looked like he was punching me. But I could just feel this pressure. It was like it kept hitting him. It didn't feel pain. It was just a pressure on my pubic bone, and I don't know. I don't remember what I said. I just remember being really still, not wanting to move. I remember looking around the room. I remember looking at all the broken bottles, broken glass. And I remember they just not wanting to move because I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken.
Boy, social media has been blowing up about this, Dina. What do you think? Did you find that testimony credible and believable?
This is the one thing I really didn't like about the criticism of the case, was this idea that she was overacting. I mean, have we really gone so far backward where we have this expectation of how somebody who is telling their story should act? You know, at this point, it's an allegation. We don't know if it's real or not. But she should be able to cry, not cry, maybe even laugh in her pain or be serious. I'm not going to judge her story based on the type of expression she's going to feel, and I would really hope our jury doesn't do that either.
Well, that's a really great point, because you never know how any witness is going to testify, but really, to your point, how any victim is going to be able or not to tell their story. I mean, you can't predict that. You're right. Tell us, though, just briefly about that allegation of sexual assault with a bottle, because that's what everybody's saying, oh, assault with a bottle, but you and I were talking about it's really not just assault.
No, and in some ways it's so shocking what she describes, and really it's rape. And that elevates this, in my opinion. You know, we're talking about domestic abuse, which is very serious in its own right, but this is rape. And many people have been asked, could anybody be criminally charged after this? And we all know assault statute of limitations is run. But if there really is a rape allegation here, I don't know the laws in Australia if there's any statute of limitations, but here in the United States, there's some places it's quite long. He could, be well within it. To me, this is so serious, and why I think Australia, their stories are vastly different of what happened there. The jury has to pick one. I think it's going to be, who do they believe what happened in Australia?
You're right, I agree. And we haven't heard who else Amber Heard's going to call as a witness, so certainly we don't yet know what this jury might do. All right, stick with us. After the break, we continue with the top 5 moments in the Depp defamation trial. There has to be testimony that has made us laugh and cry. So where did Isaac Baruch rank on your list?
Pretty angry with Ms. Heard, right?
About the phony pictures that were taken and put in tabloids, a fraudulent DV claim to extort and blackmail a man. Yeah, that kind of got me frustrated, confused, angry, upset, which is why I said the best thing for us to do is not to talk to each other.
This is ever.
Johnny,
Morning, Johnny. Morning, Johnny.
Johnny, why should we believe you and not Amber, Johnny? Why should we believe you and not Amber?
Oh.
Not this morning, not the time. Your time. Johnny, how's the trial going?
How's the trial going, Johnny?
Johnny, how do you want to be remembered?
Let's jump back into the countdown. Coming in now at number 3 in the best moments in Depp versus Heard defamation trial. Isaac Baruch, he captivated the courtroom. Depp's team called several witnesses who were friends with both Depp and Heard while they were still together. And Depp's longtime friend was one of them. He was charming, entertaining, and even emotional during his time on the stand.
Mr. Baruch, during your time living at the Eastern Columbia building, did you develop a relationship with the defendant in this case, Ms. Heard?
Yeah.
And did you get along with Ms. Heard?
I loved her. I fell in love with her just like Johnny fell in love with her. They were always loving with each other. They treated each other like gold.
Mr. Baruch, can you describe for the jury the events of the next day, May 22nd, 2016?
Yes. Amber turns to me and she says, Johnny came by last night, he got violent. I say to Amber as I'm walking up, he hit you? And she goes, yeah, he threw a phone at me and hit me. I don't see anything. I don't see a cut, a bruise, swelling, redness. It's just Amber's face.
Mr. Baruch, how do you feel about what Mr. Depp has done for you?
Objection. Well, you know what? No, I'll go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I think that's withdrawn. Go ahead. You can answer the question.
Oh.
How do you feel about everything that Mr. Depp has done for you?
Oh, come on. It's unreal. Yeah, you think too much about it, you're going to cry.
Now, you said that on the 22nd that you kissed her on the cheek.
What day?
The 22nd, your birthday?
22nd, Sunday, yes.
Okay. What's your typical way of kissing women when you greet them? Say goodbye.
I'm not understanding any of what you just did.
You peck her on the cheek pretty hard every time?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, I'll sustain objection if you want the next question.
Okay. Did you ever do a two kiss when you greeted Amber? Two cheeks?
No, I'm not European. I'm from Brooklyn.
All right, let's go to the fake punch. I want to make sure that I understand exactly what you remember seeing.
They're looking at each other, yapping or whatever they're doing, and Whitney goes like this. Pow. Just a fake pow. And then they both start laughing, and then they're just standing there.
And I think you testified already, you're pretty angry with Ms. Heard, right?
When?
I wrote it down that you
about the phony pictures that were taken and put in tabloids, and about the fake narrative, and about and the way she's trying to got a fraudulent DV claim to extort and blackmail a man. That kind of got me
pretty angry,
frustrated, confused, angry, upset. Yes, which is why I said the best thing for us to do is not to talk to each other. So many people have been affected by this malicious lie that she started and she created, and it's gone out the door and around the world. And for Johnny, his family has been completely wrecked by all of this stuff, and it's not fair. It's not right what she did and what happened for so many people to get affected from this. It's insane.
And Mr. Baruch?
How this happened. He didn't buy any paintings there. Instead, he offered me a complete patronship.
So what did you understand he meant by becoming your patron?
Well, it was going to financially make it possible for me to just paint every day and put together a body of work, so that way then it could be sold.
Did you take him up on that offer to live at the Eastern Columbia building?
Yeah, of course.
And how did that make you feel?
I started crying. One day you're in your mother's garage selling paintings for $100, $200, $300 on eBay. Next thing you know, it's an art show, and you don't have to worry about diddly squat. Of course. I was flipping out.
When did you move into the Eastern Columbia building?
The next day after we met and we talked. The next day. And here I am in front of this building. This is a beautiful building. This is it's 13 floors, but it's like from the 1930s, some Art Deco, beautiful building. And I'm looking, I'll go, all right, this is unreal. What, there's gonna be, all right, it's gonna be one of these apartments or whatever, one of these places here. I go in with Kevin Murphy. He takes me all the way up to the roof. We go into penthouse 2, and I walk in and I'm like crying, going, it's beautiful. This is like a mansion situation to me. We decided, okay, 25 pieces of work, large scale, and Johnny says, hey, how long you think this will take? I said, I've never done it before. I don't know, maybe a few months.
And were you able to complete the paintings in a few months?
No, it took me in order to make 2 large-scale paintings. It took me like almost 2 months.
And did you develop a relationship with the defendant in this case, Ms. Heard?
Yeah.
And did you get along with Ms. Heard?
I loved her. I fell in love with her just like Johnny fell in love with her. I fell in love with her. She's totally respectful, gracious to me, that she's got great teeth, that she treated me with complete respect. As I walked in, and she's in the kitchen at the counter, and she's doing a beauty facial mask, and so she can't offer me. And I'm going, hey, is that something that can help me? And she looked at me and she goes, no. And I'm laughing, and then she laughed after because she didn't realize she was making a joke.
Still with us live in studio, attorney Dina Sayegdal. No doubt, he is so authentic. You like him, he's just so authentic. But underlying all this testimony is the fact he's been living on Johnny Depp's dime. How much does that affect his credibility, if it does?
You know, of course it does affect his credibility, but he does such a good job at being who he is. Absolutely believable. Everybody should have Isaac Baruch on their side. I mean, he showed Johnny Depp to be, he said, a good friend. They somehow managed to say that on cross. And, you know, just a kind and caring and generous and good person, and he's emotional in it. Even though, yes, he should be biased or could be biased because being paid, I don't believe he was. I think he was who he is.
And I think it was good because he was authentic about his love for Amber Heard. Oh, I loved her and describing her, and she had beautiful teeth. And so he didn't, you know, he didn't come across as bitter or angry about her, you know, against her. He admits, oh yeah, she was great. Let's look together at some of the social media comments that have been made about Isaac Baruch. We have from Facebook, Helen first. I think he is a good friend and was telling the truth. Many times couples hide their fighting and friends never know. Let's stop there because I have to ask you about that. I think when we look at the darker underlying thing of domestic violence, we both know. The reality is there are a lot of victims of domestic violence who hide it and nobody knows.
Absolutely. I mean, that's classic, this shrouded in secrecy and, you know, covering up, you know, wearing something if you're having bruises or explaining it away and not confiding in family and friends. So that part is classic. And I think that's why the witnesses, the security guard has witnessed one punch, and it sounds like, according to Amber, Whitney has witnessed some. So I think it's those witnesses that are going to become so important because of, like you said, the secrecy.
Right, and you know, this was the eyewitness to say, I saw Amber, there was no mark on her face. Let's look at another comment together and what else was on Facebook by Victoria Vicky. He is clearly a matter-of-fact and openly honest guy. That's how he came for me across, no bull. I feel you can speak really openly with him and he interjects the same way too. I felt the same way, like you would love to just sit down and have coffee with this guy and have a conversation because I feel like it would be no different in terms of how he acts than he acted on the stand. And that's the best kind of witness to have. You're gonna stay with us obviously here to keep talking about our countdown. We still have 2 moments left on our top 20 list. One is a surprise that trial watchers won't soon forget. Also, stay with us for a serious discussion with a survivor of sexual abuse. We'll break down some of Amber Heard's testimony.
Join Calibrate.com.
I could feel his arm moving, and it looked like he was punching me.
Did you notice any marks on her face when you were speaking with her?
No.
She screamed at me once in person, multiple times screaming at me over the phone.
I did not deck you. I was hitting you. Said you think it's so funny. You think it's funny, bitch.
You said, I will her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she is dead. Did I read that right?
You certainly did.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. We're now down to the last 2 of the 20 top courtroom moments of the Depp versus Heard defamation trial. And coming in at number 2, the moment everyone has been talking about when Depp described the day he learned that someone left human feces on his bed. This was definitely one of the more bizarre moments of the trial, as Depp testified that Amber originally blamed it on the dogs. Depp went on to add that he had a hard time believing that explanation. Why? Well, let's listen together to find out.
So I went over there to have a discussion, what I thought would be calm understanding. And I figured she understood as well as I did that there was no way back. And I also felt that she would understand that it was the best thing for both of us, and there were no, there was nothing to, there should have been nothing to fight over. It was clear. I had told her that I would take care of her and all that, and then she started to, she was telling me about the, she brought up the situation of her fecal matter on the bed, and I and she tried to blame it on the dogs. But
Why didn't you think it could have been the dogs?
The dogs weigh, they're teacup Yorkies. They weigh about 4 pounds each. The photograph that I saw, and I mean, I lived with those dogs for many years. And so did Hilda Vargas. She's a woman who's been with me for 30+ years, you know, from the very beginning. And she was the one who photographed it. It was clear she knew the dogs as well as I did. And that was none of that did not come from a dog. And I went upstairs to gather belongings. When I came back downstairs, she was on the phone with Io Tillett Wright, and they were making a wonderful point of just how funny it was that I thought that some human being had actually dropped a grumpy, pardon the term, onto the bed, and they were yucking it up. They were laughing about the whole thing. And
Depp's team called the limo driver, Starling Jennings, to the stand to corroborate Depp's theory of who left that grumpy on his bed.
And did you have any discussions with Ms. Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving the apartment.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
The defecation.
Still with us live in studio, attorney trial consultant Dina Sayegdal. All right, Dina, I mean, it's just gross. Let's just be honest. It is, but when you have Johnny Depp describe it, and it's he said, she said, but then a corroborating witness who says she left it on the bed, I kind of feel like that's a battle she's now lost.
I agree. I think she's lost that battle. And like you said, I mean, it's like a level of doing something to your partner that most people don't do. And this whole case is about what are you willing to do to your partner, basically. So I think it helps Johnny Depp in just saying, she's not a victim. She took these kind of actions against him. And this, which is maybe a little bit sadistic in a way, not just gross, but it kind of is like another level down, so to speak, that most people are willing to go.
Do you think, Dina, that really this trial could have been narrowed to the issues and a lot of this not allowed in? Because when we look, again, the underlying allegations and defamation, was that op-ed about Johnny Depp, and did she lie? And if so, did it affect his career for damages? He's shown testimony that yes, it did, that he lost the Pirates movie because of that. But what about these other two pieces? Is all of this really who left a grumpy on the bed? Is that really relevant to the underlying issue?
And we know that these parties fought over that for quite a long time, and I'm sure there were things that the judge didn't allow in that they also wanted to get in. But I think the reason why this does seem to be kind of so overarching is because her claim is pretty broad. You know, she's saying that she suffered from domestic abuse, which is a pretty broad claim. And at that point, in order to verify it, you do all of a sudden what their relationship was like becomes relevant. All of these things become relevant. But I do think you can make an argument, maybe something like that is overly prejudicial, not so relevant. There's quite a bit that was allowed in, but it's because of the seriousness of the claim.
And, you know, I was saying earlier, if neither party objected or said it shouldn't be allowed in, sometimes the judge's hands are tied because they're both agreeing, let's let it all in. All right, there's another Facebook post I'd like to share from Cheryl about this testimony. No, that's not a joke. It's vindictive, hateful, disturbing, and the list continues to eternity. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say this comment mirrors many, many, many of the rest on social media because it is so disturbing. All right, Dina, thank you so much for joining me in studio today. I know you're going to be on later again with us. Thank you for that. We appreciate all of your expert legal analysis. Up next, we are going to be doing number one, the number one moment in our top 20 list. We listen to you all. Don't miss it. We're going to be right back on the other side of a short break.
Today at Grove.com.
Testimony resumes Monday in the Depp defamation trial, and Amber Heard will retake her place on the witness stand. Plus, it looks like Heard's team is planning to call Amber Heard's sister Whitney to the stand and to recall Johnny Depp as a witness. It will be a big week once the civil trial resumes on Monday. But now we've come to the end of our top 20 moments in the civil trial of Depp versus Amber Heard. Number one, the emotional roller coaster of Amber Heard's testimony. If she wasn't a household name before, she sure is now. Heard's time on the stand has been dissected countless times on social media. Depp's supporters say she's putting on an act, the performance of her career. But if Amber Heard really was assaulted, of course she'd be upset. Let's watch together and then discuss.
Your Honor, we'd like to call Laura Amber Heard to the stand. Will you please state your name?
Yes, it's Amber Laura Heard. I am here because my ex-husband is suing me for an op-ed I wrote. Seeing my breath and trying to will myself to have the strength to know what I should do in this moment because I was heartbroken. I felt this pressure. He owned my pubic bone, and he said he was punching me. And I remember that he's just not wanting to move because I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken.
All right, so we'll come back at 4:02.
Joining us to talk about the possible link between sexual abuse and Amber Heard's testimony, Sarah Klein, a civil and trial attorney and one of Larry Nassar's survivors, a huge domestic violence advocate. Sarah, thank you, number one, for all of that. But number two, good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Let's dive right into Amber Heard, because one of the important things, and you and I have kind of corresponded about this, is talk to us about the reality if Amber Heard is a victim, or on the other hand, if she has made up this version of facts and she's not a victim of domestic violence.
There is so much to say here. We could literally spend an hour just on that question, but I'll start by saying I don't know what the truth is here, right? I'm not in the jury box. I'm not getting the evidence that they're getting, but I do believe survivors. And what is clear in this case is that someone got abused, and quite potentially both parties got abused, right? And now in my practice, I exclusively represent survivors. I am a survivor, as you mentioned. And the one thing that I see all of the time and that we're seeing play out in this case is that people make assumptions. They make a lot of assumptions about another person based on what they think they know about them, right? They're a pillar of our community. They're the star gymnastics Olympic doctor. They're the pinnacle of Hollywood. They wouldn't hurt a fly, and they would therefore never abuse someone. And so what we see is this credibility of the victim being automatically discounted, and the credibility of the potential perpetrator, of the godlike figure in the case, be automatically inflated. And one of the common things I hear, and what we're hearing in this case especially, is, well, what's in it for her, right? She just must want fame or money or attention. And ironically enough, that is exactly what started this case, because that is the exact thing that Amber Heard's op-ed was about, which was it's difficult, especially for women, to come forward with accusations against someone in a position of power or charisma or star, power, and that they must be lying. So whether the viewer here is deciding, making up their mind that she's lying or telling the truth, one thing I know for sure is that what she wrote about it being difficult for women to come forward with accusations against powerful men is true. And, regardless of what we think, this was a toxic relationship. Someone was abused. And this case, in my view, is doing a tremendous injustice to abuse survivors. And I can definitely talk more about what that looks like if you'd like.
I do want you to, but I just want to go back to one of the things you said that is so important. I saw this as in my work. I've seen it as a judge on the bench, and that is disbelief that a certain person can be a victim, disbelief that a certain person, to your point, can be a perpetrator. And I think for me, one of the most important takeaways is anybody can be a perpetrator, anybody can be a victim, and you better not ever assume exactly what you said, that someone can't be one of those things. But now, yes, Sarah, I'd like for you to delve a little more into that and tell us how you mean.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just add to what you said is when I give speeches across the country on this topic, I say when you walk into your kid's school, ask yourself the question, who's the most popular teacher here? Who's the most popular coach? Who's the one that has the most access to your child that is beloved? And that's the one, as a parent, I advise people to keep your eye on, because it often is that good guy predator, the one with the most charm, the most charisma, who is the pinnacle of the community, the one we all believe would never hurt a fly, who is indeed hurting children, adults, whoever. So I'm a glass half full person when it comes to the effect that this is going to have on survivors. So I'm going to start with the bad news. Just generally speaking, survivors are always watching. We are always listening. We are watching this stuff play out. We are in the room and we are watching how people respond and whether they are there for us or not. And what I think this case is doing is showing that there is this tremendous skepticism when it comes to especially women who allege abuse. And this is not news to me as a survivor or as a sexual abuse attorney, but Statistically, we know that 1 in 4 women or 1 in 6 men have been sexually abused in their lifetime. And arguably, I think that's low based on the fact that we know survivors don't report because of what we're seeing play out in this exact circus. There are a lot of reasons people don't report. But what they're seeing with this trial in particular is that the cost of coming forward is sky high. That you will be shamed, re-traumatized. There is this dynamic of discounting credibility, and the effects are irreparable of considering discouraging victims or past victims of abuse coming forward with accusations in the future.
All right, so 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 6 men. Really important to emphasize. Again, it can be anybody. Really short question. Listening to this evidence, do you have any thoughts on who the jury's going to believe at the end of the day?
You know, I have watched court TV coverage, gavel to gavel, all day, every day, hanging on this testimony. And as a trial lawyer myself, I have absolutely no idea where this is going to go. But I will say, I hope the jury gets it right, whatever that outcome may be, because survivors are watching.
All right, Sarah Klein, you know I adore you and appreciate so much all of your advocacy. Thank you on behalf of all victims. Now, as we prepare to resume trial on Monday, let's take a quick look back at the top 20 moments so far.
She yelled, she hit, she threw things, she called us names.
I definitely support Donnie, 110%. There's not a doubt in my mind.
I don't hesitate, I don't wait, I just in my head instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs, and I swung at him.
That was a first, I'm sorry.
I will say, Your Honor, that is the most bizarre deposition.
Okay, all right, it's just gonna say I've just never seen that before.
You never believed Miss Heard that Mr. Depp had mistreated her.
No, never.
So we'll come back at 4:02, okay? It doesn't matter, she's been watching clips of witness testimony. All right, you're excused, ma'am, you can have, you're excused.
What do you recall about the photos?
Her face was bruised.
Did something happen to you? I don't think so.
So it's fair to say that she has not donated $3.5 million as of today to the ACLU, true? True.
I did not deck you. I was hitting you.
She's an actor. Do you honestly think she would have left her apartment ever without makeup?
Blood drips across the floor and around the bar.
It just went right past my head and smashed behind me.
The results of Ms. Heard's evaluation supported 2 diagnoses, borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder.
You text Mr. Bettany, let's burn Amber, 3 exclamation points, right? You see that?
I do see that.
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get through to him. I couldn't get up.
I say to Amber as I'm walking up, he hit you?
I thought that some human being had actually dropped a grumpy.
I was heartbroken.
The top 20. Thank you to all of our viewers for all of your social media and responses about what stood out to you. And a reminder that this court will start early beginning on Monday. Our coverage will begin at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'll be joining you at 2 p.m. Thank you again to Sarah Klein for being with us today. Also to all of you at home for joining